I'm Laura Liptrot. I'm an actor, writer, poet, stand-up comedian from the West Midlands, UK, and I have just been interviewed by Keith Andrew. Very lovely experience, thank you.
For people who want to know what is the Keith Andrew Network, the whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities, and never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, to prove them and stand out to something. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith Andrew, and we're on the road to Halloween. A lot of people say Halloween. I like it. Say Halloween, just like the band Halloween. Great band, by the way. Available on iTunes, Amazon, and go to Halloween.com. Okay, it's an 80s rock band, but still, it's in the holiday spirit. For the Keith Andrew Network, the whole month of October, you get to dress up, dress down, whatever you want to do. It is professional. But here on the Keith Andrew Network, you do not have to have a learning disability to be on my show. The fact you're taking the time to be a guest on my talk show says enough. Because I am on the spectrum of having disability, that doesn't mean you have to have a disability to be on the show. Just by being here, you support me. That's enough about me, because it's not about me, this is about you. So the first question I want to ask you is tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Laura Liptrot. I'm based here in the UK, in the West Midlands. I'm an actor, stand-up comedian, a writer, poet, jack of all trades, really. I'm sat here in my mum's kitchen. That's me. That's me. I'm an artist. I'm a creator of all types. Yeah.
And I see you like to color white.
Yes. We like our white, our bright whites. Always think it makes a room look bigger as well when things are white. It does.
It's yellow too, for that matter. Yellow. Well, let me clarify one thing. White's not a color. We can get to that. But yellow, recently my kitchen was blue. My parents wanted to paint it yellow because we asked Google, hey Google, how do you make the room look bigger? Thankfully, I don't have Google in here because my watch was going off yesterday. So I don't have Google. But we asked Google and Alexa, what colors do you use to make a small kitchen look big? They said blue, yellow, green, gray. I don't know why you want to paint your kitchen gray, and white.
No, gray is for me.
But white's a good color. Even though white's not really a color, it's a shade.
Yeah.
Then again, I was always curious what a black kitchen will look like. But I have enough issues, right? But if everyone who's watching, because you're from the United Kingdom, we can't see it now, but when I do the editing, if you're watching, we will have a United Kingdom stuff flashing in the background. It's Halloween, so you get to dress up. So I try to do things differently, October, Halloween, Christmas, for December, we have a Christmas theme. And I try to keep it for January because January is kind of boring. Mm-hmm. So every month has a different theme to it. So that's why one things about my show is always trying to keep it different. But, it's not about me, this is about you. But the one thing I do want to ask you is, how's everything over in England?
It's pretty okay, actually. As okay as it normally is. Prices are going up and wages are going down and there's strikes going on, but hey, what's new there? There's no disasters at the moment. COVID seems to have slowed down, quietened down. So, life's pretty ordinary over here. Normal problems, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we don't have to talk about political things if you don't want to, but here on the KeithAndrewNetwork, freedom of speech, self-expressing, we can talk about and have fun. That's all it was about. It's a half-hour conversation about having fun. But like I said, 15 questions. I have 14 left. But the next one I want to ask you is, what is the biggest change you want to make in your acting career?
Ooh. So I haven't done a lot of work on TV at the moment. I've done sort of independent films that do festivals and a lot of stage work. And I think the next thing that I really want to do is to get on TV. As I say, I write as well. And my real ambition is to have a sitcom on television that I write and I star in. So I think that's the thing I want to do now. I want to be on mainstream TV. Yeah.
No, I feel the same way. You know, if you can't make it in the US, go to Canada. If you can't make it in Canada, go to England. There's 50, I think there's like 50 countries. Don't quote me on this. I think there's like 50 countries in the world, or 100 different countries. You're going to be someone. So you need to find the right audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that I do feel my comedy is very British based. It's very classic sort of 1970s British sitcoms. Not sure my comedy would translate in America. You know, I watch things like The Big Bang Theory and How I Met Your Mother and things like that, and Scrubs. And whereas I do like it and it makes me laugh, I don't recognise myself in the writing and the performances. So I feel that I wouldn't necessarily sell to America like a lot of British stars have. But that's okay. That's okay.
You bring up a good point. What is the biggest struggle? Say, there's a lot of great actors. I was going to say Hugh Jackman, but he was Australian. But he's an example. You look at Hugh Jackman, you look at Hugh Laurie, Hugh Grant, a lot of people from England who make the transition over from overseas. For you being an upcoming British actor, what is the biggest hurdle you're trying to accomplish? Like, say that people look at you, and of course you have the accent, and you can't, obviously you're not gonna hide that, but you should be proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the biggest hurdle of being not stereotyped, but trying to connect with a different audience?
I think it's knowing what to say. Because for me, I'm just going to mention a couple of my favourite comedies, but I don't really know whether an American audience would know them. But some of my favourite comedies are The Royal Family and Dinner Ladies, and they're very they translate really well to an audience because people recognise the characters in them, and I think that's a real key for comedy. Certainly when I do stand-up, I'm saying things that people go, yes, I understand that. And if I'm doing comedy in America, I might make references that people are like, what's that? And I'm missing things that are obvious. You know, I can't talk about, you know, if I'm over here, I can moan about our government, but I don't know what's going to work. Talking about the American government, I don't know those things. So it's a cultural difference, and I'm not part of that culture. So my observational comedy is very British. So I'd say that's kind of a hurdle, knowing what to say. Knowing what to work.
From what I was told, it's about the people you know, and it's about making connections.
Yeah. I get that. I mean, I suppose if I did live in America, I would observe the people around me who would be American, and I'd tell their stories. So I suppose I could work in America, but I'd have to be living in America and know lots of American people to then create comedy out of them. Which kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I say it for people who want to see some of your work. You are on TikTok. Are you also on Instagram and YouTube?
Yes. I've got a YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, a bit of my stuff's on Facebook. I've got a website as well. It's Liptrot.actor. Yeah, so you can see my work. Yeah.
And I would also recommend a LinkedIn as well.
Oh yes, I do have LinkedIn. I don't use that so much, but yes, I do have LinkedIn.
Now, next one I want to ask you, have you ever been on television?
Yes, for about 2 seconds. I don't know if you're familiar with Children in Need. It's a big charity event, and I was a mascot for that. So I was dressed as a giant yellow bear, and I had to go into schools and talk to the kids. And when Children in Need was broadcast this year, there was about a 2 second clip of me dancing. So I have been on television for 2 seconds, dressed as a giant bear.
Hey, better than nothing, right? So the next one I want to ask you, with everything that you accomplish, and you have a bright future ahead of you, what are some of the best advice you have ever gotten?
Oh wow! So people tell me that as an actor, you need to keep going to classes, you need to keep learning because you can always find new parts of yourself. So keep learning. Yeah, and also classes are a great way to network. I've got some work from just meeting people in classes. So that was probably a fantastic piece of advice. And from one of those classes, I've learned that you basically can't do wrong, and this particular tutor was telling me that we don't really have a right to judge other people. Like we can say, okay, I would do that performance differently if I was in that role. I don't like that particular genre. But there's no wrong answer in art, and we've all got a right to, as you say, free speech to do what we want to do and to play roles the way we feel. And if the director sort of goes, that's not quite what I'm looking for, doesn't mean you're a bad actor. It means your visions aren't aligned. So just, totally believing in yourself, knowing that I will make it, I will keep doing it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if we don't get to 15 questions, we do have a bonus show called Sit Down with Keith Andrew. It's available on TikTok and Instagram for overtime. So make sure after you watch this, stay tuned for Instagram and TikTok and YouTube if I'm in the mood. But yes, it's all over social medias. So now I'm going to ask you 2 questions at once. This one's, I usually ask one at a time, but if the questions are short enough, I try to do 2. I hate the expression kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Whoever the hell came up with that stupid expression. But the first question I want to ask you is what are some of your career highlights and how comfortable are you speaking in front of a group of people?
Oh, interesting question. Some career highlights. I have done some one-woman shows in front of only a small audience, but it was a sort of personal achievement for me. Not having the support of other people on that stage was a really terrifying prospect, and the fact that I walked through those doors and went onto that stage is a real personal achievement. One of the highlights, I actually played Marilyn Monroe, if you can believe it. It was a play in which the real damaged, broken Marilyn Monroe was having a conversation with her alter ego, the stereotype in the white dress and everything, and I played the stereotype in the white dress, and it was just so fun just to be so over the top and silly and not have to worry about depth of character for once, but just go for as big as possible. Yeah, that was one of the highlights. What was the other question?
Oh, how comfortable are you speaking in front of it? Well, obviously, this is going to sound a stupid question because you stand on stage and you act in front of a group of people. So, with that being said, how comfortable are you speaking in front of a group of people?
I am really comfortable now. There was a time when I was younger when I was totally confident on stage, but I literally couldn't go up to a bar and ask for a drink because I was that shy of speaking to people as myself, which I've totally got over now. So I sort of transitioned from that by when I was obliged to speak as myself, I played a character, and now I just feel totally relaxed being myself in front of large groups of people. So absolutely fine with it right now. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Now, the next 2 I want to ask you is, what is your claim to fame? Because you do improv, that's number 1. And if I would want to follow in your footsteps, or anyone who wants to follow in your footsteps, how comfortable are you to teaching other people?
So my claim to fame, I don't really have one. I mean, I've got a lot of Facebook friends and I've got 100 followers on YouTube. I don't really think I am famous. I've got a friend who always says, now let me get it right. She says, "You are famous. People just don't know it yet," which I think is brilliant. So it's difficult to say a claim to fame because I don't feel famous. I don't think I am famous. Um, and teaching other people, um, I did try doing a bit of drama teaching, and I just feel like that's not for me. I haven't really got the quietness to teach. However, inspirational talking and giving people advice, I'm totally okay with. But sort of teaching techniques and leading a class, I'm not really confident with. Mm.
No, you're right. And you know, you may think I'm famous, but I'm not, not by any stretch of the imagination, even though I do have a wide imagination. I've been doing this for 10 and a half years. I have, thanks to you, you're episode 1057, and I met a lot of great people, a lot of met decent people, a lot of people I kind of wish, you know, I got more out of it, but they were a one-time thing. Um, I made a lot of failures along the way, but I taught myself everything, you know, from, you know, watch season 1 and 2 from 2013. You know, you showed the progress of how I asked, you know, stupid questions, or to I didn't want to be seen, to now I want to be seen, from talking too much to not talking too much. Um, so you, for the 10 and a half years, you know, you see a progress. So hopefully you do see a progress in 10 and a half years. If you don't, you're obviously doing something wrong. My brother likes hitting me over the head, not literally, but he likes hitting me over the head saying, if it hasn't, you've been doing your show for 10 and a half years at 1,000 episodes. If it hasn't gone anywhere, it's never going to. But I would rather take a long time than be a overnight sensation than just magically disappear into the night. It's always good to make a solid foundation.
Yeah, I mean, I recently did a course that's led to a showcase that led to me getting my agent. And this certain company that ran the course has been going for, in the UK, it's been over 20 years. So I could have done that course when I was 10. But the thing is, if I'd have done that course when I was 10, got an agent as a child, I would never have, I wouldn't appreciate the struggle. I wouldn't have become a writer. And as a writer, you make your own work. I wouldn't have the identity I have right now. So I think everything happens for a reason, including being made to wait for certain things, because you you have to learn. You learn certain lessons that you were meant to learn in the time you're waiting for whatever else to happen. I wouldn't be a stand-up comedian if I'd got an agent when I was 10 years old.
You know, I agree with you. Well, I'm going to ask you a bonus question. Is it easy? A lot of people like to say you have to know people. It's about connections, being in the right place in the right time. But this is going to sound stupid, but if you know me, I ask stupid questions. So let me ask you that. Is it easier for women to break into the entertainment world than it is for guys? For an example, you put yourself out there, you're on stage, people can actually interact with you, compared to someone with me who has disabilities. And thanks to COVID, that's a completely different story. For me, I can meet people on the screen. So yes, I do put myself out there. But what first question I want to ask you is it a difference between, say, you're on stage and people are in the audience, because you don't know who's going to be in the audience. That's always a revolving door, compared to someone who has a message, who has a talk show, and it's kind of like, yeah, you have a disability, so does him, so does her. Big whoop. Do you see it's kind of like competition, or do you think it's just connecting the right people? What is your opinion?
Well, I think there's room for everyone of every gender, every ability, every background. I think it's, you see, I don't feel that I've struggled as a woman because I am a woman and I don't know what it would be like to be in exactly the same position as a man. So I can't really say whether being a woman has affected me or not. Um, I would say that people trust me more, which I think is a bit of a problem in society that needs rejigging. For example, I did some headshots today. I've met the guy on Facebook. I was going to go to his house and have these photos took. And understandably, I was a bit cautious. Can we meet somewhere else first? And would I have done that if it had been a woman? Maybe not. And that's the way I've been raised. You know, as a society, we've been raised. And is that fair? Is it fair to men? But then on the other hand, is it something women have to think about? So it's complicated. It's such a big, complicated debate. And I also think that we all sort of have our own stuff to deal with. And by that, I mean, if we have a problem, it's our problem. It's a massive problem to us. And we can't appreciate another person's problem because we don't know what it's like to be there. You know, in God's handbook, person number one's problem might be 100%, and person number two's problem might be 20%. But to person number two, it's 100% because they've never been anybody else. So, sorry, I'm going off a massive tangent there.
It's kind of like, and I do apologize for interrupting.
Okay.
But it's kind of like this video I saw recently where the guy's like, "Oh, I'm looking for a roommate," and it's like, "Oh, well, everyone's available," and then I was like, "Well, if you say you want your roommate to be a woman, then obviously, you know, people are like, oh, you're being sexist." But I would rather be in a situation where I'm comfortable with having a person. I'll give you an example. If I know who the person is, I know them for a while, okay, I don't care, a guy or a girl. But if you're going to put yourself out there and say, hey, I'm looking for a roommate, a little alarm bells will go off and being like, yeah, this doesn't seem right. You know, it's as soon as you do something, a lot of people want to throw their 2 cents in it. And it's kind of like they try to ruin things for it. It's kind of like, yeah, we get it. You need a roommate, but at the same time, you don't want to be in a situation where you set yourself up for failure or it's awkward, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think every situation is individual, and you have to work out how to read a situation. You've got to be careful, but you've also got to be open, and you've got to just trust your instincts and read the situation for individual. Like if a man is rude to you as a woman, don't suddenly think that all men are rude and sexist and whatever. Be aware of that experience, but don't judge other people by somebody else's actions. I think it's all individual, and you've just got to work out how to do it for yourself, really.
While we're on this subject, let me ask you, because this was in I think it was the 80s or it was in the 90s, Three's Company. And the joke was Jack was in, actually, there's a funny joke about that, I'll tell you in a second. Jack was living in an apartment with two women. No one thought about it, except for the landlord. Like, you know, what's going on here? Why is a guy in an apartment with two women? And then he's like, oh, he's gay. So he had to pretend. But it's kind of like, what's the big deal? Why can't you say, yeah, I want my roommate to be a woman? And of course, if you're professional about it, you're not going to be an asshole about it. But it's kind of like, from a woman's perspective, if a guy said he's looking for a roommate to happen to be a woman, do you think that's a red flag or?
yeah, if somebody asked me that, I didn't know them, and they just said, we're looking for a roommate that's a woman, I'd think, why? Why are you not open to it being a man? You know, if it was just I'm looking for a roommate, a woman came along and he said, we really get on, let's do that. The fact he's specifically looking for a woman makes me think there's something going on there.
That's true. The reason I want to have a roommate who's a woman is because I'm not gay. Also, but if I know someone who I know for a long time, it will really make a difference. But I'm not at that point anyway. But I do have a couple questions for you by wrapping up. The first question I want to ask you is, how can our fans and listeners get in touch with you?
Oh, okay. So I'm on Facebook. Yeah. I'm on YouTube. Am I able to send some links to you? Possibly?
Yeah, absolutely. All your information will be in the description. So if you're watching the video on YouTube, go to descriptions. Your YouTube will be there. Any links you send will be there. And absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, I'm on all the socials: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of them.
And absolutely, the one thing I do want to clarify is there's nothing wrong with having, if you're a guy, you have a girl in your apartment, or vice versa. As long as you're professional and you keep your boundaries and you're just professional overall, it's not a big deal. As soon as you first say it, it's people like to jump on it and they throw their 2 cents. And I talk with my hands. And, people like talking at their ass, and that's a force of habit. But it's kind of like, don't ruin things for other people if you don't know what's going on. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm based here in the Midlands, and I did a show in London, and one of the actors who was in it, her dad is quite famous, and he asked if I would like to, sleep in his spare room, which was a perfectly innocent thing. And he's probably about 60, and that's very much what was done in those days. Actors haven't got any money, so they just crash on each other's floors. And having met him and talked to him, I know that it wasn't anything creepy. I personally did want to impose, but I know that was just pure kindness. I know actors haven't got a lot of money. You don't want to spend money on a hotel, so come and sleep in my spare room. It was just that camaraderie among performers. So again, judge each, and his daughter would have been there as well. So again, it's just judge each situation by its individual merits. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now I do have a couple of questions for you off the air. But if anyone who watches all these episodes, you are, and I like to say, I would love to have your comment, feedback. If you're watching, you're obligated. So why watch it if you're not gonna read some feedback? But I would love to have the feedback. Our goal is 100 and more views. Once we reach 100 views, we can definitely do a part 2 down the road. But stay tuned. In a couple of minutes, we're going to do a sit down with Keith Andrew that's available on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. But wrapping up our interview, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. And until we meet again, catch you later. Thank you, and have a good night.
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change.